Whoa, whoa, whoa. Internet! Oh. Moving stuff, clearing space. Oh, yeah, dog. Yeah, dog. What are you doing, dog? Yeah. Chipperdoodles. Come on. Come be on the show, buddy. Come on, little buddy. Come on, little buddy. Come on. Yeah, we got a little buddy dog. Oh, internet. What's up, internet? We got a Chipperdoodles on the show. Hey, Chips is here. He's the littlest dog in the world, except for the other dogs that are little than him. Oh, Mr. Chips. Let's see how long Mr. Chips is going to stay here. What up, everybody? It's Wednesday. How you doing? What's going on? Let's see here. Who's the first one to the chat? Oh, Gone Mad. Number one to the chat. Number one in our hearts. I'll be staying at Gone Mad's house in Chicago, coming up here for the aquatic experience. So if anybody's wondering, that's where I'll be staying, over there at Gone Mad's house. Gone Mad. I like that handle still. Dean H, AD Aquatics, Wushu, Jimmy Brown, the Pickled Placostomus, Teresa Cookie, Frank Dominguez, Mary Beth Mabe, what up? Candy Overhauls, AMA Aquatics, Nisi. Not to downplay any of the other moderators out there, but the favorite moderator of most everybody is Nisi of the North there. Oh yeah, check out her Facebook page if you get a chance. It'll help keep you guys appraised of the live streams and when they're going up and what's going on. We all message with her about what's happening. Hey, FU2 says meh. Well, I'm sorry, Dean. I'm sorry, man. Just meh on a Wednesday. Aquaticy is here. What's up? If you type internet 3 times into a live stream, I will appear. That is right. Type internet into your mirror 3 times like a crazy person, and I'll show up like a boogity ghost. I'll be all, ooh, boogity boo, boo. You know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. Showing up all creepy like a ghost, you know. Joseph Harris is here. Candy Overhaul says, what up, fish fam? Hello. Ow, what happened? What was that? Something got me. Something bit me in the leg. I don't know what it was. It was a ghost. Roger Deadham is here. Stephen Fitzgerald is here. Wait, whoa, what happened with the chat? Oh, I moved it. The Turtle Girl is here. What's up? Famous Jones. Famous enough to be a Jones. We like that. With the General Zod. Do I look like General Zod? I'd play General Zod in a movie. Hey, what's up, movie people? Put me in the movie. I'll play General Zod's little brother. Little creepy brother. I think that'll work, right? Everybody's saying hi to Mr. Chips. He gets mad when I'm live, but honestly, if I'm here painting or something, he will sit on my lap for a while. He doesn't like it when I'm doing the show, though, for whatever reason. Probably because I'm spazzing around. Let's see, Bare Bottom Aquariums. Hey, I love the $1 per gallon sale. Just picked up 4 10s and a 20 long. Right on. Always great to get those small aquariums. If anybody talking about small aquariums, I think it was kind of the inaugural podcast with Corey from Aquarium Co-op. It's called the, well, hold on, I've got it here. Real Fish Talk. So I think we got a lot of good responses from that stuff. We're going to be doing more of those shows. If you guys want us to do more of those shows, that's where you all come in and go, hey man, do more shows like that. And we'll be working on it. Right now we're tentatively doing once a week on Tuesdays. It's a little earlier too in the day for people to get a hold of, for to hit those Europeans out there and whatnot. I think all the Australians will be asleeping, though, I think. Carson Anderson's here. What is up, dude? How you doing? Iris in Gone Mad's house. That is right. It is probably Iris's house first and foremost, but Gone Mad and I will be there. Probably making messes and getting in trouble, you know, leaving like to-go boxes on the floor or something. Just generally being a nuisance to Iris, which is, hey, you know, that's kind of, that's just kind of one of the jobs that we have in this world, just as people, right? Just kind of being generally irritating, but try to be the best that we can. We'll be on our best behavior, of course. Let's see, Aquascape is playing hooky from working on an animation project because once in a while you simply need to concentrate on fish for a while. I like that. I like what you're talking about there. If no one has ever seen Aquascape's channel, Aquascape, he's a fantastic production. Sub him up. I love the work. I love the work for sure. And man, the UPS guy. Shut up. The UPS guy, I gotta go like talk to these UPS people and be like, don't show up between 4 and 5. Like, stop coming at the end of the day. Come in the morning. The house is still here in the morning. They could come in the morning, right? They could show up in the morning and just drop off whatever these boxes of nonsense are. It's always work-related stuff. It's never anything cool. I never get any like cool stuff in the mail. You know, that's just reality. AMA Aquatics says to hit the like button. Nisi's Facebook page is in the chat there. She's got a little hot link there. If anybody needs to get a realistic update on when things go live, as we know, the YouTube update stuff doesn't necessarily go out at the right time. Sometimes we go live and people show up 58 minutes in and go like, I just got a notification. But Nisi is really good about posting that stuff up early in the day so you guys can know what's happening. More often than not, she's probably talked to one of us or talked to us and been like, hey, what time are you doing? What's going on? She is super duper behind the scenes taking care of all sorts of stuff like that. And we appreciate her work for sure. Check out, she has a, I think she has a Patreon page just like I do. She has a Patreon page, which is helping, it's essentially, I think realistically, it's helping her pay for her data plan that she's having to deal with up in Alaska. The Alaska plans are a little bit different than the contiguous 48 or the rest of the world for that matter. So it's basically like helping her pay for that kind of stuff, and you know, everybody just lend a helping hand for her hours and hours of work. There's my Patreon. I have no idea where Nisi's is. I can never find it. I'm never on the ball with her stuff. I should definitely have a file here for it, but there's my Patreon. I'm super happy and ecstatic to say that we've hit a milestone today, which is 50 patrons. We've reached 50 patrons today, which is amazing. I know it's just kind of a round number. I guess it's only one more than 49, and you know, but it's very encouraging. It's very cool. It's a very cool number to go like, I've got 50 patrons. That is badass. We are short of some of our goals, but whatever. I'm just saying it is super awesome that all the patrons here kicking in to help fund these shows and the production and all the stuff that's going into it. I've got big plans to start producing some big shows. We're just going to keep moving forward little bit by little bit. Every one of those little dollars helps, and it all goes back into making shows and stuff like that to help you guys out. The reason I do this show like this, it's interactive. I can definitely help people out and stuff like that. Which, speaking of that, hey, FU2, we were messaging back and forth yesterday in regards to one of his posts that he posted up. He had this weird white crud that was going on his substrate. And it was essentially like a fungus that he was getting going on down there. And, you know, of course, my initial reaction is like, well, that's weird, because it is weird. It is an odd thing to have that happening on the substrate of your aquarium. And the most likely culprit is going to be his leftover food. After we kind of messaged back and forth and talked about what was going on, he's probably got leftover food that's growing a little bit of mold or fungus, you know, which either one of them's not that great, so it's a good idea to go ahead and take care of that, which he moved some flow in his aquarium so he doesn't have that little accumulation that's happening down there, and then make sure that we're going to get the rest of the food out of there. But that is just one of the quick examples of some of the stuff that we've been working on here. Today, we've got a video that some people out there might be interested in for sure. It is me dealing with some root-bound potted plants. So as you guys know, we get our aquatic potted plants in these little, you know, plastic pots. I wish I had one right here. I probably should have brought one in, but these little plastic pots with the rock wool in it, and they're kind of jammed in there. Oftentimes, if you go to a aquarium store or a fish store or anything like that, they may or may not have some plants in pots like this marked down. Now, that is one of the reasons I wanted to show you guys how to do it. This is kind of a little bit way to save a buck here. That those plants that have been held in a tank in a store for a long time, they get root bound. Okay, it's just like a potted plant. If you put a potted plant in a window in your house and it's just a too small of a pot, you get all these roots grown in there. It starts to stifle out the plant. The plant doesn't have enough space to kind of just roam its roots around and do what it's trying to do, and that pot it'll basically everything will get jammed in there, and then the plant will start to recede a little bit. It'll start to recede quite a bit, and then generally what stores go, oh crap, they're dying, we mark them down. So that's kind of where the savings comes in. Oftentimes these are the plants that I find that have been marked down. They're perfectly good plants. You as the fish keeper, aquarium keeper, aquascaper, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever little badge you wear around when you're in your house doing whatever you're doing, can save a couple of bucks by buying something like this and easily bring them back to life. So I wanted to, that's what I'm going to be showing you guys how to deal with that today. The two pots here that I'm dealing with today are the green Wendetti cryptocrine, however you want to say cryptocrine, cryptocorn, crypt, however you want to say it. Everybody says it happens to say it a little bit different, but if you guys get what I'm saying, it's the Wendetti green, which of course I don't really know how to pronounce properly because I only ever hear it in my head when I'm talking to myself, which I do admit that I do spend a fair amount of time kind of talking to myself a little bit, you know, so I am a little bit weird in that way, but I do spend a lot of time by myself, so I end up just kind of having this little goofy dialogues with myself. But I don't know, maybe that means I'm crazy, but maybe it just means I gotta meditate more or something like that. Who knows? Let me catch up on the chat here a little bit. A lot of people saying congrats on the 50. It's awesome. It's kind of an innocuous milestone. It's not really it doesn't really mean that much. It's sort of like I mean it doesn't mean that much in the fact that it's just an arbitrary number, you know what I'm saying? So it just feels cool because it's a nice round number, right? Bare Bottoms Aquariums, Joel said that he'll do a happy dance on the stream if we meet the funding goal today. Yes, I will do a happy dance if we meet our funding goal today while on the live stream, that is for sure. I had to refresh. What did I miss? Everything? Huh? What? Okay. Yeah. I will do I will definitely do a happy dance if we meet the funding goal while on the stream today. That is for sure. And there's Nisi's Patreon is right there. The Nisi of the North. Let's help relax her phone bill a little bit. If we can. It's just, you know, it's one of those things, $1 at a time. Definitely adds up when we're talking about the community here, with all the people just kind of chipping in $1, $2, $5, that kind of stuff. We just got our tickets for Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner. I'm so excited. Can you tell? Can you tell that I'm excited? I'm excited for it. Saturday morning. I'm very excited. It's going to be great. I'm just convincing myself that it's great, and I'm going to try and go in there with no like preconceptions about what's going to happen or thought about the storyline or any of that kind of stuff. I just really have to clear my mind and just say that I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. But we did buy, we got 5 tickets, and that costs $80. So about an hour and a half, probably. I think the run time on it may be 2 hours. You know, it's roughly, it's just under $20 a person for 2 hours of entertainment. So that's just the way I look at it. You know, their production was like $300 million or something like that. So it feels like a bargain, you know, when you think of it that way. Oh yeah, my iced coffee is perfect today. I brewed that the other day. I brewed this iced coffee the other day, and I've been keeping it in the fridge. Just add a little little creamer, a little sugar. Perfect, good stuff, delicious. Punky Pam just showed up. Sorry you're late. Not a big deal. This is the intro where I'm just rambling about nonsense. Adam Jones, how about them Kansas City Chiefs? 4-0. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs are killing it. That is for sure. I will definitely agree on that. They once again look like a solid team top to bottom. Famous Jones thought it was carrot juice. No, this is my coffee. I'm always on the coffee. You guys know that. This time of day, it is coffee time. I love my coffee in the morning, and then I generally forget to drink it during the day, and then by the time I come on here, it's time to have some. It's either you know, make all this video, put all the production together, get ready for the stream. Come on, do the stream for however long it's going to be. I cut out an hour to be live, but it does take time to put all this stuff together. And it's either have some coffee now or take a nap and not do any of this stuff. So I'm opting for the coffee. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't skip that afternoon coffee. I'm one of those people that like, and I inherited this from my dad, is that like, you know, that early afternoon time, it's like, oh, I'm just going to go sit down over here for a minute and fall asleep for 20 minutes. So instead of doing that nap, I come on and do a show instead and skip the nap, which means I get to sleep all night, which is a lovely feeling. It's a lovely feeling to lay down with my lady and get some sleep, all snuggled up. But one of the notes that I have here today, and it is on a little bit of a somber note, and some people out there probably think I'm going to talk about current events and that kind of stuff, which I am not. I am not going to talk about any of the current events, even though I'm starting it out with saying that it is on a little bit of a somber note, and that is because I want to talk about my grandma for a minute. And I know that maybe a lot of people out there aren't interested in this, so you know, I fully understand if you all got to log off and go away, but I'm going to talk about my grandma for a minute before we get into the video section here. My grandmother passed away about 1.5 years ago, something along those lines, and it was somebody that while I was working today and getting work done and doing stuff, it's somebody that I've been thinking about today quite a bit, and I wanted to express a couple of things here that I think are vitally important, that maybe a lot of people out there haven't had this kind of conversation. I had quite a few conversations with my grandma, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned any of this to my family, but and maybe they know because they knew her too, so they probably had those kind of conversations. My grandmother was always extremely supportive of me pursuing whatever these crazy ideas I have were. And it took me a long time to kind of think about it, and it's been a long time since I've actively thought about the conversations that her and I had, was in regards to you know, there was time where I was like, I wanna make videos, Grandma, and she's like, cool, you should do that. That sounds like fun. You should do that. You know, when I was really little, I would say that I wanted to do stuff, and my grandmother said, yeah, you should do that. You know, by the time I was in my mid-20s and early 30s, I had some conversations with my grandmother that I was like, hey, I'm trying to do this kind of crazy stuff. And she said, yeah, yeah, go do that. And it's interesting now to look back on those conversations a little bit and realize what my grandmother was actually saying. And it was in the vein of, if there's this crazy idea and this stuff that you want to do, go do it, because no one else is going to just show up and do this stuff for me. And one of the caveats to those conversations that I had with my grandma was that everything that you do is going to be extremely difficult when you start it out. Right when you start out, it's going to be a huge pain in the butt. My grandma was a chef. She was a chef for the school district. She was a school district chef for a long, long time because she wanted to, she loved taking care of kids and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that she wanted to do. Somebody that I learned to cook from, which I never even really recognized that was one of the people that I learned to cook from, was my grandma. But when we had these conversations, I would have these conversations with my grandma, and it never really seemed all that important. It always just seemed like my grandma's just kind of talking. It's just like my grandma talking or whatever. And it's been a while since I really thought about it, that she always said that I've got all these crazy ideas, and always said, just go do them. It's going to be really hard at the beginning. It's going to be really difficult at the beginning. And if you keep at it and you keep doing this stuff, that this stuff is really it's gonna work out by the time you get to the end. Like, you're gonna screw it up a bunch. Like, it's just gonna happen. And you know, it's kind of interesting. You know, if I was like 11 years old, it just kind of brush it off. You know, like, it just doesn't seem that important. But this is something that I wanted to, because I was thinking about it today, and I wanted to think about what it had to do with aquariums, and for that matter, the most often comment that I get is from people is like, I don't have the artistic ability. I don't have the, you know, I don't have the green thumb that you do. I don't have the this, I don't have the that. And I wanted to point out to you guys that I didn't start out with the ability that I have at this point. I started out failing. I failed miserably a whole bunch of times. And I slowly but surely got better and better and better and better at it. It's one thing that, the one thing that we have that could be advantageous over anybody else isn't talent, isn't intelligence, it isn't any of that stuff. It's learning from your mistakes and just working harder the next time around, and not doing the same thing that you did if you made a mistake the previous time. And that's kind of the way that I've tackled this kind of stuff. So I just want to get that message out to a lot of people out there that, like, that I often get is like, well, I don't have the artistic eye. Well, neither did I when I started out. When I started out, I couldn't figure out where to put plants, what was going to be growing, what wouldn't grow. A bunch of stuff died. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I didn't have lights. I was doing DIY, CO2, all this kind of crazy stuff. And I was having issues and issues and issues because, you know, I hadn't kept fish tanks for a long time. There was a big break when I had stopped keeping fish and doing this kind of stuff, and I just kept stumbling and falling and just screwing it up over and over again. But over time, I got better, I got better. I started to figure out, like, which plants kind of go where, just because, hey, this thing's going to grow 6 inches tall. So if I put it in the very front of the tank, it's going to be an issue because it's going to grow up in front of anything that's only 2 inches tall, if that makes sense. Whoops, what is this? Oh, I don't know. Did that get deleted? Okay. I was trying to delete something, or I was trying to delete something that was already deleted. But like I was talking about, I screwed up a ton. I screwed up a ton because I hadn't you know, I had basically taken a long break. So getting back into the stuff, you know, I initially started out with some pretty easy fish. I started out with some easy fish, like some swordtails and some platies and those kinds of little buddies. And then I worked my way back into it. This is like, you know, this is like 10 years ago now. So over the last 10 years, I've definitely been getting better and better and better and better and better. Definitely. So that was kind of the message that I definitely want to put out there. And one of the things that I wanted to relate to that was that my grandma said, just go do that crap, right? And then here's the weird combining conversation that I had with my mother, who is the daughter of my grandma, apparently, right? I had that conversation and I said, hey, I want to do this show. This is what I'm working on. It's a little bit scary because I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my bills. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And it's strange because my mom said to me, she goes, just do it. You have all sorts of people that are extremely supportive of you in what you're working on, the things that you're doing. Don't stress out about that stuff. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep working hard at it, and it'll work out. It'll work out one way or another. So that's the weird thing, is that like it started with my grandma, and it passed down to my mom, and it passed down to me. So I'm going to try to pass on a little bit of that to you guys, that that I screwed up fish tanks for quite a while. I really did, but it got better and better, and it got better, and I just kind of kept working at it a little bit by little bit. If you guys know that the video segment, you guys notice that the video segment in the shows that I do here are typically only like about a half an hour to an hour's worth of work kind of slammed into 10 minutes, right? And that's just for the sake of time, is that I try to edit the video down to about 10 minutes, so I kind of speed stuff up and that kind of stuff, but it's essentially me. I only shoot about an hour of the work that I'm doing. A lot of the work that I do is just really boring, so it's not like, I mean, it's like me just painting on something super slow, which I'm shooting time-lapse of that, and you all have to sit through that probably next week as I finish up Eric's piece over here, which has, whew, man, it's got some detail going into it, which is good, so it's been taking a little while, but that piece will be coming up. But a lot of the stuff that I do is pretty boring, and it'll be pretty easy for most people out there, if you're spending a half an hour to an hour a day to get a ton of stuff done as you're moving forward, doing new scapes, doing kind of stuff, you know, posting your stuff on Instagram, putting it up on Facebook, posting it up on the Patreon, whatever you guys, wherever you guys want to post this stuff. And before you know it, you might end up getting like an invite to, hey, go to the, I always say Denver for some reason. Is there a big convention in Denver? There must be a big convention in Denver, but like, hey, you might get invited to go do the convention in Denver because you know, some company saw the work that you were doing or whatever, and bada boom bada bing, things might happen. But the conversation that I had with my mom that connects with the one with my grandma was, and here's the thing that she said. She goes, you know that Brad Pitt is actually a guy, right? Like, you know that it's actually a person. It's not like there actually is a guy that does that. There actually is a guy who just plays people in these big giant movies or whatever. Like, he's actually a guy. Somebody has to be that guy. So, you know, not to say that I'm Brad Pitt or any of that kind of nonsense, but what she was relating to me was, you know, that guy didn't start out being the movie star. He started out doing these little acting roles, and eventually he was like one of the biggest stars in the world. So, and that he's actually is a person. So it's like, not saying that my mom thinks I'm going to be the biggest movie star in the world or anything like that, but she was trying to relate to me that you start out low and you just keep building and keep building and keep building and building and keep working at it, and before you know it, you're going to be way farther than you thought you ever were going to be. Aquaticy says, I am told I have a ridiculously impressive resume, but I have failed at everything before being successful at it, including fish tanks. And that is a great way to put it right there. I've failed at every single thing I've ever done before I succeeded. If that makes sense. Loads and loads of failing before getting an opportunity to succeed is realistically the thing. KG Cichlid says, a lot of people don't know about this channel. We should all spread the word. I appreciate it. If you guys want to spread the word, I'm all for it. Go ahead and spread it out there if you like. I always say, this is a community. I'm trying to do my best to build a community, to grow this, to grow with projects, to do bigger projects, to go out, reach, and grow the community. And that's one thing that I've talked to about with Corey from Aquarium Co-op. I know a lot of people have been asking me, hey, are you guys teaming up full time? That's the goal. We are planning to team up full time, and that's because I had that same conversation with him that was, he wants to grow the community. He wants to get more people out there. He wants to be able to help more people and do more things. And I'm in 100% agreement with that. And so that's why we're doing more shows. There'll be more shows coming out. And I'll be doing more and more stuff as time goes on here, as the availability comes along. At some point in time, like I said, I don't know when, but at some point in time, the production quality around here will continue to go up, which it definitely has. And one of the things that you guys were able to do is help out with funding to get a capture card. And I actually ran the test on that today. I hacked my camera, I hacked one of my cameras, so we're able to run 3 cameras in here now. And hopefully soon I'll be able to order another microphone, so we have a 3rd mic on here. But we'll be able to get some better perspective shots and things coming up in the future. Also, Vibe Finder is saying, did you fail at drawing and painting too, or are you a natural? Yes, I failed miserably. I continue to fail miserably at art on a regular basis. Almost every time I make something, I screw it up the first time, I screw it up the second time, third time, ooh, there's a charm or something like that. But I always, I am not a natural. Well, I mean, okay, if I was to have a natural talent, my natural talent is to be mildly adept at something at the beginning. If that makes sense. I'm fairly coordinated. I have both hands. I got both legs. I can stand upright. I can't see very well, but I'm pretty well to do as far as the natural born abilities that I got going on for me. But the thing that my natural ability would be that as Aquatis is saying, failure is only negative if you don't learn from it. My natural ability would be to go, oh man, when I screw something up, how am I going to not screw it up the next time? That would be my natural ability, and I don't even know if that's a natural ability or a learned behavior, because that definitely could have come from my mom. It definitely could have come from my grandma. If I'm lucky, I'm super lucky because my family is awesome, and that's just one thing that I wanted to point out today. If anybody's ever met my sister, she's a kick-ass. She kicks ass, you know. There's really not a whole other way to put it. So if I'm lucky, it's because my family is awesome, and I got to grow up in an environment that allowed me to be able to just kind of do stuff instead of not. Gillett's natural talent is freestyle rap. I believe it. I believe it. I definitely believe that. Let's see. When all about DIY. When I first started, I polished coins with a metal polish and put them in my tank. Bad idea. Milk, water, and dead fish. Lesson learned. Yes, I think everybody has done some kind of goofy stuff like that. Try to catch up on the chat here a little bit, and we'll be going over to the video segment here in a second because we're 33 minutes in. DPK Fish, my blessing to you, Corvus, and so grateful you are here on Earth, brother. The beauty in life is the learning and growing, and love and believe in everything. We put our hearts and soul into it. Exactly. That pretty much sums it up a little bit better than I did. Took me a long time to get to it, right? Let's see. Bare Bottom Aquariums. I just picked up 2 Irene Red Rainbow and 3 Turquoise Rainbow Juvenile from the Unmentionable Pet Store with the $1 per gallon. I don't know if anybody could figure out exactly what store were you at, but that is a pretty good deal. So let's see, Lictor Records, start the momentum, be the first today to patronize Corvus. Quick, do it now. Yes, all the patronizers get a shout out. That's the best that I can do is A, make the show, and B, shout out to you guys for patronizing and helping out. And just a quick reminder of who is really involved in the community. And as we continue to grow here, we're going to be able to do more projects down the line. So. KG, with our powers combined over the power shares. I do like that. Take the form of power shares. Quadacy says those 33 minutes have gone by so fast today. Yes, they do go by quite quickly when I'm yammering on. I can yammer on, and sometimes people gotta bring me back to the middle here. So. All about DIY. I started about a year ago and got so much support from these guys like Corey from Aquarium Co-op and Bob at Steamfont and others like that. I would love to head up to Washington and have a fish confab. The easiest confab to go to would be the Aquatic Experience in Chicago, because I know we're all going to be there. That would be the easiest way to go about that at this point. Let's see here. Hi, Stag. Oh, V-Stag's here. What is up, man? How you doing? KG Cichlids, do orange peels actually help nipped fins heal? I saw a video that IFG put out. I was wondering if there is hard evidence that that works. I have never heard of that. But I'm going to put that. Let me highlight this real quick. Wait, what's this stupid thing doing? What are you doing? There we go. All right, so we'll copy that text. So KG, as a reminder to everybody, if there's a real question, I mean, if somebody asks me a goofy question, I'm not gonna follow up on it. But sometimes people ask me goofy questions that I don't have an answer for. But that is definitely a fish-related one. So what I'll do is I'll highlight it, and then I will reach out to some of the experts and whatnot that I know, and try to answer that tomorrow or Friday. I'll try to get a follow-up. But I've never heard that. So I can't say one way or another about the orange peels, whether or not that does anything. All About DIY is going to go to everybody's channel and sub. That's sharing the love. Let's go. Oh yeah, I like that. Everybody sub up everybody that's making videos. It's not the greatest thing to sub up people that aren't making videos. That always feels weird to me. Like, you have 2 subscribers and you've never made anything. Okay, whoop. But if there are people out there producing stuff, always subscribe to them if you can. Yeah, share that love around. Get an opportunity to check out everybody's stuff. See what's going on. See what you can, where you can. And if you can, it does help everybody. It helps everybody out there. If you go ahead and subscribe them up, and do that. Yeah. So we are going to head over. Let's see here. Oh, haven't heard surprises all week. Well, you missed it yesterday and you missed it Monday, because I definitely do it every once in a while. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, we're 38 minutes in, so we got to get to the video segment. And yeah, look at this. Overexposed shooting, taking this apart. Hold on, let me fix this a little bit. I gotta change the brightness. I don't know how that got up. It was all the way up at 7 for some reason. Weird. All right. Why is this? Oh, okay, there we go. There we go. Now it's looking normal. Now the video's looking normal-ish. I don't know. It looks a little weird on the YouTube's end. But as we're going along to the video here, as I was talking about earlier, these are essentially root-bound crypts that I had acquired these to go into Victoria's tank, and she decided that she didn't want any crypts in her tank. She's basically doing mosses and anubiuses in her aquarium, and so I said, okay, well, I'll just hold on to these, and I'll add them to the crystal shrimp tank whenever that happened. Which you guys know, I had that 180, which I ended up switching out for a 150, which is a much more delightful color of black in the background instead of blue in the background, and I'm much more happier. I'm much more. What happened to my words? I'm much happier with the black background than I am with the blue background. So, as you guys know, we put the substrate in. We did the plumbing, we did all that. Everything is up and running. Yesterday we did the power cycle, the quick cycle on this tank, and it is reading correct. Oh, there we go. Angelo's Dank Tanks is asking, when I set up my CO2, can I put the diffuser in my hang-on back filter? No, don't do that. I know a lot of people that do that, but Vinny and I researched that a long time ago, and it's actually bad for the bad for the bacteria in your hang-on back filter. The CO2 is detrimental to your positive bacterial growth in your filter. I know you can do it that way. A lot of people did it that way. If there's any way for you to do it on the output of your filter, that is where you want to do it. That's the best way. Let's see. Stephen Fitzgerald, wow, how many extra plants did you get out of those pots? I get all the plants out of the pots. You know what I'm saying? I get them all. However many there's going to be, I get them all. I get all them plants, if you know what I'm saying. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. Oh, okay. Dank Tanks has a mechanical hang-on back only, then that's a good deal. So if you're not worried about the biological in your hang-on back, actually, so if you just had like filter floss in it and that's all that you were doing with it, or just a mechanical flow action, then yes, you can definitely do the CO2 in there. But if that's the only place where you have your biological filtration concentrated in, make sure to not put the CO2 in on the intake. Make sure to put it on the out hose. However, the water is getting back into the aquarium. Some people were asking me in regards to, it seems like you're putting a lot of driftwood into this aquarium, and yes, this tank is going to be jam-packed with driftwood. This tank is going to be primarily scaped with driftwood. I will be adding some more rocks into it, and we'll be discussing some of the rocks that are in here. At some point in time, I need to go find some matching rocks to what is in there right now. What is in there right now is some serpentinized greenstone, so I'm looking for some more of it, because it actually is local to Washington, but it is pretty rare that anybody carries any of it at their rock yards. But I do know where to go get it. And I have to pick it up off of the ground. And if I have to do that, it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a hike to go get it, almost literally. So sorry, I bumped the mic there, guys. Let's see here. Oh yeah. So instead of talking about the rocks, let's keep talking about these root-bound plants here. So the pot essentially will get completely filled up with roots, and you'll have to start dealing with a mess like I'm dealing with right here. A lot of times you get a little bit of the rock wool mixed in. You guys know that I'm an adult, and I'm not too worried about getting the Choco Piz dirty water, because my filtration system will filter most of this out. And I did shoot a section of video that was ridiculous and did not come out because I bumped the camera out of the way while I was doing it, which was, I was using my siphon to clean up after I had all these little bits of detritus all over my tank. So when I filter, when I vacuum with a siphon, I actually just vacuum it back into my sump, if that makes sense. If that makes sense to anybody. I don't do it into a bucket. I just do it right into the sump, and then the sump will filter it out. So it might seem a little bit crazy to people, but when I use that thing, and of course, like I said, I bumped the camera right out of the way and was unable to utilize that video because it really was just the camera pointed over at nothing. So I did vacuum up all of the little pieces and stuff, but I do shake it off into the tank, and I'm not all that worried about it. You guys can see how fast I am here because the video is sped up a little bit. But you can see that these plants are mostly root. They're essentially mostly root at this point. They only have a couple of tiny little tiny little leaves growing out of them and stuff like that. Do not despair. Do not despair at what is happening with your plant here. All the little leftover root bits where it was all root bound together, those are going down into the sump, and those that sprout will get moved up into the display tank later on. But do not despair with the fact that they only have a tiny little leaf coming off of them. Just go ahead and plant those roots with your tiny little leaf, and don't worry about it all that much. And the plants will grow back once they have a little bit of space for the roots to move around and stuff like that. Don't fret. You have a good plant. This is a good plant, and we can keep you can definitely keep them and have them come on back. They can have them come on back and do some serious growing, even though the pot was all jammed together and poofed up. So do not despair. Your plants aren't screwed, and you're not screwed either, even though it is going to be messy. So keep that in mind, that this is going to be a messy situation that you're going to have to deal with, and the fact that you're going to have all these little bits and crap floating around in your tank. Let's see here. I'm going to catch up with the chat here a little bit because that seemed like an end of a sentence. IFG, once a CO2 system is added to your tank, is it considered high tech? Well, probably, I guess. High CO2, pretty much considered high tech. KG Cichlids, you are very good with the plant tweezers. Here's a great point. I am pretty good with the plant tweezers. I've used them a lot. Those of you that have been to a really fancy restaurant, you wonder how we put that, how people put the plates of food together for you. Use big tweezers like this. They're almost always used in fancy restaurants for plating. So I have a lot of experience with them. Also, I have a lot of experience planting plants. Now, another hot tip here that I've mentioned to a lot of people over the years is plant your aquarium when it is filled with water. Do not take the advice of some of those aquascapers out there that put the substrate in and leave just air in there, and then they start putting the plants in. Don't take that advice. There's some applications that stuff works great, where I showed you guys I made the tree out of the moss that's in the left hand side of the video right now. It's great to do stuff like that outside of the tank. I do not find it helpful at all. I do not find it helpful at all to plant the aquarium with no water in it. I find it to be way easier to plant the aquarium when it is full of water. A lot of people out there get kind of freaked out because it is going to be a little bit messy, but just remember, your aquarium is going to be a little bit messy once you're setting it up and stuff like that. If you think that you're going to plant it and it's going to look like it's beautifully grown in and all that stuff in 5 minutes, it's not going to work out very well for you. You're going to get very disappointed. Always remember to plant your aquarium, because essentially what you're looking for is a 3 to 6 month timeline for it to be grown in. After about a 6 month period is where it should be robustly grown in, to where all of your pre-planning and your care and paying attention to the details and all that kind of stuff will come to fruition, and you'll have yourself a kind of a beautiful garden. One of those things out there that I remind to people is that we don't plant our garden in August and think that it's going to be ready 5 minutes later, right? We do a lot of prep in the springtime. We do a lot of stuff goes in the spring and stuff like that, and has months to grow. Same thing with your fish tank. Your Aquascape is not going to be fully ready and look all super grown in and beautiful on day 2 or anything like that. So remember, all these plants that are going in are looking at a 3 to 6 month timeline for it to be really established and really grown in and all that kind of stuff. So just remember that when you're planting plants in, that you're shooting for, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road is where you want them to be grown into. Instead of putting them where you want them to be later on, you want to put them in a spot that later on they'll be where you want them. I'm catching up with the chat while I'm reading. It's all about what you pass down to others in the end. Yep. Yeah, I wish someone would do a show about getting good planted tank results without a CO2 system. You don't necessarily need a CO2 system. If you look at Victoria's tank, she doesn't have CO2 on hers at all. It's definitely not a big... it's not a necessity. I run CO2 on my tanks because I like it, and it makes my plants grow faster. That's realistically it. That's realistically the main benefit is that it just will give a boost to your plants to grow a little bit faster, because it allows a higher concentration of carbon to be in the water column, so that your plants can photosynthesize and grow. So once they grab potassium or nitrogen or whatever they're grabbing, they combine that with the free-floating CO2 carbon in the water column, and that is how they photosynthesize and grow. Well, they combine carbon with, for instance, nitrogen, and the sunlight is the energy. They combine that, grow into a plant. That's how photosynthesis works. So the CO2 is really only available during the daytime when the lights are on, and it just helps them to grow faster. It's definitely not required. It's not a requirement to have CO2. So anybody out there that thinks, wow, I'm failing because I don't have CO2, that's generally not the case. That's generally not the reason why you're failing. So, or maybe you're just being impatient. I would look into that stuff, but I would also look into what exactly is going on with your setup. If anybody has any questions out there about how to do their aquarium like without CO2, the lowest tech of the low tech would be Diana Wallsted's book. Look up her book and read that book. It's actually a pretty short book. It's only like 80, 100 pages or something like that. Pretty quick read. I don't know if they have it on audiobook. I imagine that it would be a pretty popular audiobook if they did. But that would be the lowest of the low tech to not even have a filter on the tank. So that is the book that I would recommend for people to read if that's what you're looking into. Everyone have a great night. Got a daughter and wants to sit together before bed. Oh, Angelo's got to go to bed. Say good night. Okay. Famous Jones needs those tongs. You can grab those tongs on Amazon. They're pretty easy to find. As Nisi was saying, did you know you can support the show by clicking the Amazon link for all your Amazon needs? It doesn't change the price. It just lets them know that it basically just tells Amazon that it's sending people there. So if you go to the darkstararts.amazon tab, you can just go through and order some tongs. They're actually pretty cheap. They're only like, I think the last time I ordered them, it was like $12.99 for 3 pairs. So I think that that's pretty reasonable, realistically. Famous Jones, I heard CO2 melts jungle val plants. Jungle val will melt anytime you move it, so keep that in mind. It will melt aggressively, but it will grow back aggressively. It will melt if you move it in your own tank. If you move it from one side of the tank to the other side of the tank, jungle val will generally melt and then come back. So always be patient. Always be patient with melting plants. So to explain something fairly simply to you guys that is confusing to almost everybody out there. When a plant melts, and I'm saying that with the air quotes around it, when a plant melts and the leaves all turn brown, well, turn yellow, then brown, then basically melt away. What is happening when that happens? Okay, what happens when that happens is it's essentially going through a change of environment, right? So maybe you have moved it somewhere where the substrate is more fertile. There's more light. There's more CO2 in the water column. Wherever you've moved it to, it's in a whole new area now. And what will happen is when those leaves melt away, so with Jungle Val, with Crypts, with Anubias, with most of the aquatic plants that we have, or that we use, when those leaves melt away, that is the plant pulling back the energy from those leaves, because the environment is no longer beneficial to grow within the new environment that it has been moved to. It'll pull back that energy, and then the new leaves will start to grow out to grow into that system, if that makes sense. If that makes sense to you. Hopefully I explained that well enough. That melting is actually kind of a beneficial situation with your plants adapting to the new situation that they've been put into. Because remember, if we pull a plant out and put it somewhere else, that never really happens. That never really happens to plants. You know, it's probably, as far as plants are going, they're probably screaming in fear if we could hear it or anything like that. They're probably freaking out because this kind of stuff doesn't ever happen to them. Dank Tank's hot tip for planting small root systems in EcoComplete. I had a hella hard time planting tissue cultured crypts. Well, this substrate that is here is half sand, half 88. Well, so no, sorry, it's thirds. Okay, so if it's 1/3 sand, it's 1/3 88, and it's 1/3 fluval stratum in this tank right here. So it's pretty similar to the EcoComplete. These bent tongs, the bent tongs that I'm using here is going to be the hottest tip that I can give you. And then you're going to grab from the bottom of the root, and then you're going to feed that root into the substrate, then kind of pull away a little bit, then top it in. Then you're just kind of pushing a little bit of substrate to top it and cover the that little bit that is left sticking up out. And you can see me doing it in the video there, more or less. Let's see here. I usually fill the part tank full. Learning is patience is a virtue. Okay, I'm trying to catch up on the chat here, guys, but let me see here. I like to think of crypt melt as being sort of a fainting spell. Sometimes plants get momentarily overwhelmed. Yes, I would agree with that. Teresa Cookie, is there such a thing as skinny disease? This is what my local fish store taught me my daughter's longfin leopard danio died of. I did treat the fish with praziquantel per directions with no improvement. Skinny disease? I don't know. I'm gonna add that to tomorrow's list. Because that's not peaking any quick response out of my head right now, but I'm going to add that to tomorrow's list of questions to answer. All about DIYs. Got to go get the parentals for dinner. I love you all and have a great night. Thanks again. Oh, thanks again. Have a good night. Have a good night, DIY. Half man, half bear, half pig. All about DIY. I trip over my words sometimes. I say the dingiest things and regret it. Dwayne Kitchell-Joel experiments in the 60s to 70s with okay, hold on. Galvanometers? I don't know what galvanometers are. I have no idea what that is. I'm guessing that's some kind of tool. Proved that plants have almost sentient reactions to all kind of events. Look up Cleve Baxter's work. Yes, actually, I don't know what a galvanometer is. Galvanometer is an electromechanical instrument for detecting and measuring electric current. Oh. Oh, okay. Weird. Why is it called a galvanometer? Weird. Alright. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, it's obviously been replaced by a different tool, if that makes sense. Weird. But I'll look that up. I'll check out Cleve Baxter's work. I've read quite a bit in regards to the plant's reactions to things, for sure. There's a whole bunch of stuff that plants do reactively to either being eaten, to being moved, to all that kind of stuff. There are a bunch of plants that will release toxins to change their flavor if they hear that, if they can hear the sound of deer eating them. Which is weird. The plants will change their taste and that kind of stuff, which is why I play a lot of death metal at full volume for my fish tanks. I believe my plants enjoy my music, because, you know, if I play acid jazz, they don't grow that well. They don't grow all that well. Don't forget to click the like button. John Williams, I'm no expert, but I've found that my Anubias seem to grow quicker once I start propagating them. At least it seems like they do. Yes, Anubias will grow quicker if you are propagating them. That is accurate, John. Kang Lee is here. What's up? How you doing? After hundreds of James Finley videos, I call them aquascaping pincettes. Yeah, I like James Finley videos. I wonder who does the voiceover though, because I don't think that's not James Finley doing the voiceover in his videos. Skinny disease sounds like wasting disease. It does. Does anyone have any hands-on knowledge of the API liquid phosphate test? I'm trying to get a list of must-haves. I'm trying to think of the API phosphate test. I think I've used most, if not all, liquid test kits at certain times. Oh, that's PO4. Yes, I've used PO4 plenty of times. PO4 test kit. Phosphates. That's why it's ringing a bell. I use a phosphate in my reef quite often. It works well. Definitely give you a good readout in a planted aquarium. PO4 phosphate, aka phosphates, are very helpful in a planted aquarium, and they do a lot to help your plants grow. In a reef aquarium, phosphates are a big no-no. So it's kind of weird that there's the variances of difference. Aquarium Co-op says, speaking of voiceover, we should create videos for each other, and then I voice over your video and you do mine, for all the hilarity. I'm sure we will be doing that at some point in time, Corey. I'm sure that'll happen. But I'm almost thinking that we should almost do some old-timey voiceover type stuff. I think that's the thing that we should start working on. You know. If anybody's seen any of these crypts here, there's the bees knees, the real cat's PJs. I don't know, not really all that great at it right now, but I'll work on getting better. Does anyone let's see. What do you think about CO2 tablets? Work or don't? CO2 tablets will be a waste of time, honestly. Honestly, CO2 tablets is a waste of time. DIY CO2 is a huge waste of time. Just in my personal experience, for having done it for a really long time, being somebody that was a chef for a really long time, it still didn't take me that long to do my DIY CO2, but it cost me money. It cost me time to go to the grocery store to remember to like get yeast and extra bags of salt, or extra bags of sugar and all that kind of nonsense. DIY CO2, big waste of time. It is worth your time to find a used system, find some used tanks, trade them in for. All right, quick explanation here. Go on to Craigslist, find some used CO2 tanks. Hopefully you'll find some used regulators out there, and when you go to take the empty tanks in, they're going to give you a different tank. Okay, so don't worry about getting those old tanks or any of that kind of stuff. Get them cheap. Then you go to the welding store and trade it in, and they're going to give you a different tank. They're not going to fill the one that you have. So no real reason to order a brand new tank, CO2 tank, CO2 bottle, whatever you want to call it. No reason to get one of those. But the DIY CO2, huge waste of time. CO2 tabs, big waste of time. It's going to be money out the door all the time. And so I have, most people know that I have the 20-pound CO2 tanks. I have 3 of them, and 3 of them will last me, even with how big of the tanks and all the systems that I run, 3 of those will last me about 2 years, and it takes about $16 to get it filled, get each one filled. So if you break that down, it's really pennies on the month. And every time you got to go buy yeast, every time you got to go buy salt, every time you got to spend the time to make the mixture and all that kind of stuff, big time waste of time and waste of money. Also, you're going to be spending a ton of extra money wasting on just getting CO2 for your plants, which, as we talked about before, is not essentially necessary. It is just helpful. It is just a helpful boost to get your plants to grow a little bit faster. KG Cichlids, I play heavy metal in some of my videos. I like to think that it flatters them. I think it does too. Crypt melt is caused by acid jazz. Agreed. Definitely correct. Let's see here. That would be funny and confusing on the podcast. People will be like, wait, am I in the right video? Yes. The voiceover stuff will definitely happen as the projects continue to grow here. Not to beat a dead horse here or anything like that, but as I said earlier, I'm super enthusiastic about hitting the 50 patron mark. It is super cool to go, like, we're at 50 patrons. Hopefully we continue to grow, because it's really difficult to make all these shows on $500 a month. I know that there's a lot of people out there that go like, I wish I had $500 a month. My bills are way more than $500 a month. So hopefully we can start to fund a little bit more of these projects, expand the projects, and as I mentioned earlier in the show, there are more collaboration type things coming up. There will be more shows coming up. Cichlid Bro was texting me earlier today and was asking me, he's like, I'm confused. What's the plan here? You said you wanted to do 2 live streams a day. You want to do one in the morning and you want to do one in the afternoon. And I said, yes, I want to do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. That is the plan for this channel, that hopefully I'll be able to do the individual show in the morning, which is essentially just me, and then hopefully have guests in the afternoon. That's the long-term plan for this channel right here, and also getting the time and the ability to produced videos for Saturday and Sunday. That is the plan, to be able to try and put the videos together. I did get a message earlier that there are a lot of people that feel alienated by the long format, and I get that. I've talked about it kind of ad nauseum, and I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I also want to remind people that the reason why I like to do this show is I'm able to interact with you guys. Typically, if I make a 7 to 10 minute video, it'll probably get 1,000 to 1,500 views or something like that, and like 5 comments, right? With no opportunity for me to really answer a lot of questions, begging the day or anything like that, because most of people just watch the thing and then they go do something else, which is totally cool. Which is excuse me, I'm like, I got some phlegm in my throat. Which is totally cool, and I'm happy to do those kinds of videos, but it does take hours and hours in order to put that together, and then I never get to interact with anybody. I never get to, like, see how you guys are doing, see what's going on. It really ends up being that one-sided conversation, which I'm not super happy having, where I'm just like, hey, check out what I got to say. And so that's why we're doing the show this way. That's what's going on. If you guys haven't checked out the Patreon, you can go there. There's a community tab. Now, I talked about this yesterday, and I'm going to try and mention this a few more times this week, so bear with me. There's a community tab on the Patreon that you guys can go on there. You could post up a picture if you have a question, any of that kind of stuff. You can post it on there. And you could post it on there, right? And then I can get to it the next show that's coming up. I'm doing 5 shows a week right now. Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So that means that I'm able to answer questions pretty quickly. I'm able to get back to them the next day, and we can actually even talk about them, because people send in a question and they're like, my fish is doing this, my fish is doing that, and then it's like, okay, we're going to talk about that. Here's what to do right away now, and then we'll talk about it a little more at length when the show is on, so that we can really figure out what's going on, because it's super difficult to like email back and forth and try and figure out what's going on. So Dwayne Kitchell, wonder how Jim managed to get you on their podcast with XSplit. If possible, would I be possible? I would be willing, just can't get XSplit to do Google Hangouts. Well, is that for me? I don't know if that question's for me or not. I'm confused. I don't know if I was on Jim. Oh, Jimmy. Oh, okay. So, how we're doing that, with Corey and Jimmy on Jimmy's channel. You're calling him Jim, and he's always Jimmy to me. So I'm like, Jim, who? Jim? Who's Jim? Surprises! Who's Jim? So okay, so how we're doing that is, so Corey and Jimmy are operating their workstation up north from here over the internet. Then we are actually using Wirecast for that. I don't have Wirecast. Wirecast is super expensive, and I spent all of my software brownie points on Sony Vegas, which is a nightmare. And XSplit, I spend all my money on XSplit and some other stuff, which I maybe should have just saved some more beans and gotten Wirecast, but Wirecast costs about $800, and Corey and Jimmy operate it from up there, so that's how we're able to do that, which is just one of those examples of people out there like, I don't understand, this costs a lot of money to produce this stuff. Yes, it does, because I know that some people feel like I just plop down here, turn on the computer, and just start talking about stuff, which I get. I hope that it feels that way. That's kind of where a lot of the work comes in, that I hope that it feels like we're just talking, and I haven't thought about what I was going to talk about all day, and people just think I'm super smart and super spontaneous, right? But that's where a lot of the work and the money and all that kind of stuff goes into, so that's why it's really important. XSplit won't let me do that, as far as I know. We could do Google Hangouts, but Google Hangouts is sketchy at best. It's sketchy at best. The audio they seem to have worked out, but as Corey and I were talking about it, and he kind of opened my eyes to it, because I never really had noticed it before. The video is just so janky on the Google Hangouts. I'm sure Google is working on it to make it better at some point in time, but right now that's going to be kind of the best way that we're able to do it. So Bracken is here. What's up, Bracken? You're almost done, aren't you? Yes, we are almost done. We didn't get any extendo super chats or any of that stuff, but I think we had a pretty good show today. I even talked about my grandma today, so I miss my grandma. I wish she was here, but I also was thinking about it, that I know that my grandma would be going, just keep working on it, just keep kicking ass, and keep working on what you guys are doing, and she would dig it. She would just dig it. She would love it. She was always super excited. She was always super excited when my projects worked, when they were super crazy, but they worked out. At one point in time, I was doing some less than intelligent things in my life, and my grandma was my grandma was always super stoked for it, and she was always super supportive of the idea to just be like an independent person. I know that she spent so many years working so hard, and my grandfather died when I was really young. He died when I was 13. And I know that a lot of what my grandmother was trying to impart on me was like, you could kick it early like your grandpa did, and don't miss out on the stuff that he may have missed out on because he was just so focused on you know, doing this work and trying to accumulate money or whatever that kind of stuff was. And you know, one of the things that my grandmother always talked about was my grandma and my grandpa went to New Zealand for 6 months. They just went there. And that was the one thing that my grandma would almost always talk about when we really kind of reminisced about things, was the 6 months that she spent in New Zealand with my grandpa, and how awesome that was, how long they had thought about doing it. And you know, it took them to get to that retirement age in order to be able to go do that stuff. And I know that conversations with my grandma about that stuff was, don't wait to do that stuff. Just go ahead and do it, because there's nothing really stopping anybody from doing that kind of stuff, other than ourselves. And I hope to, I hope I make her proud. I hope I make her proud, and that's just kind of one of those things that I think about. Fairly often. Aquascape saying, thank you for the stories about your grandma. I really appreciate it. My grandfather was the same way. You can see my 104-year-old grandmother in some of my videos. That is awesome. That is awesome. 104 years old. That is amazing. The next time you order food from the drive-thru, tell them you want a Coke with some freezes? What? I'm confused. Frizzes. Is that frizzes? Frises? I don't know. Yeah, it's Aquascape saying, I feel your pain. Producing content can be costly sometimes, but we do what we got to do, right? Yes, we do what we got to do. And that's kind of the whole thing with just trying to build the community here. And, you know, is that if I went somewhere and went like, hey, I need 30 grand to make a show, right? Places out there would just be like, nah. I've approached quite a few companies to try and get funding to do this stuff, which is kind of dumb. So I guess I'm sort of selling the ticket ahead of time to the show, if that makes sense. But to the best of my abilities, we're gonna try and pay it back in the ways that we can, which making good content, helping people out, and being available to try and do stuff. Try and do stuff moving forward. Let's see here. Bracken's here asking what kind of crypts are there going to be in the tank. Eusterenia is great. Wish I could have some. Have some because I have loaded my tank to the brim. I would love to have some Eusteriana. I don't even really know how to say it. I always just say it in my head, and then I realize, oh man, I should probably think about this ahead of time. What's the pronunciation here? People need to post the pronunciation in the world. But I do love that crypt. I actually have some in the 240, just a tiny bit that was left over that managed to survive the madness of the move and all that stuff that died. And hopefully it will continue to propagate, and I'll be able to add some in. This is actually the Wededi. I can never I feel like an idiot sometimes when I'm trying to say certain things. Wendy. I'm actually just gonna post what this is. I don't know. I'll probably say a whole bunch of things wrong, but that's just reality. But Cryptocrine, Wendy, and this is the green variety that was actually going into the 150 here, which is pretty easy to identify the green from the brown. It definitely, or the bronze, or the red. They all grow different. Unless you're colorblind, and then it might be a big issue. Crowdfunding is the wave of the future. Hey, it's how my friend Joel Hodgson Revived Mystery Science Theater 3000. I love Mystery Science Theater 3000. Fuzzy Fish is asking, can you fluval stratum in an already established tank? Yes, just remember that you will have a little bit of an ammonia spike to deal with, and you'll have to do a little bit of water changes, a little bit of extra water changes, just a little extra, and just double check your ammonia and stuff. But yes, you can add it to it. Let's see here. So what other plants are going to be in the 150? Well, that's going to be surprises. So I can't be spoiling the surprises that are coming down the future, because surprise, right? You all got to be dealing with those surprises. But those of you out there that were waiting for the for some carpeting plants and stuff like that, I'm going to be doing a lot more carpeting plants in this, along with the extensive driftwood work that is going in here. So I have some random bronze crypt growing in my daughter's 10-gallon. It's bare bottom, and the plant still grows. Yeah, some plants will grow in the bare bottom tank, and that's, you know, not a huge ordeal. But I want to give a shout out to all the patronizers here. As we said earlier, we hit 50 patrons today, which is it just feels like a milestone. I don't know if it's a milestone or not, but it definitely is. So we'll start out at the top of the list here. Remember, I got to read through 50 names here real quick. Let's see how fast I can do it. Starting at the top, we've got Aquarium Co-op, who's our biggest supporter here, quickly followed up by Eric Gone Mad, who has taken second place in supporting. While we were on the show, he's upped his ante up to $49.99, followed by Steven Skoglund, Kieran Egan, The Fishy Mailman, Sashimi Whiskey, and Long Woo. Those are all of our top supporters, and not to deflate any of our smaller supporters, it's just kind of an extra shout out to those guys, because it really is appreciated, and it's pretty huge. But it's huge that everyone is patronizing. So Joel Gillett, Pax, Vince Grippa, Denzel Gregory, Nick K Aquatics, Rob Hicks, Matt Gilmet, Jack Betts, Cichlid Bro, M. Den Hollander, Kevin Keener, Jennifer J. Sarchicino, Pamela Earlywine, Bracken Ward, Dennis Ballard, Dean Hanui, Theodore Schultz, Roger Dedham, Tim Lewis, Lecter Records, Candy Overhauls, Addison Nishijima, Jim Meeker, Karen Halbert, Eve Daigle, Kevin Hayes, Gene Fensky, Karen KZ Ellis. Brand new here down at the $1 supporter groups, we got Gary Brown, HC Aqua, Alexandru Raiden, Nisi of the North, Dean Feldman, Steve Parker, Teresa Cookie, Spencer Ballard, AMA Aquatics, Matthew, Priscilla MK, Jeff Jackson, and Thomas Donchek. Thank you very much to everybody out there. I hope you subscribe to all of those Patrons while I was reading them out. I think you all could just start clicking the buttons really fast. Hopefully we have everyone has a great night out there. Stay super safe. Stay super safe, and just remember that I appreciate all y'all for coming out. I definitely do. Aquarium Cowboys just stopping in right before the stream ends. Aquaticy says that's how you initiate a surprises avalanche. That is exactly how you do it. Hopefully everybody has a Wendetii? Let's say Wendetii. I like that, Roger. Roger Deadham says Wendetii, so I will try to do that, but I always say Wendetti because I'm an idiot. So, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, just Bob's going to bed, but just stopping by to say hi. So hopefully I got to say hi to everybody. Hopefully I answered all your questions. Remember, pop over to the Patreon, and you can put your questions on there. That is the easiest way. That is the easiest way to get me to answer a question or that kind of stuff. Sometimes I miss the chat. You know, the chat goes flying by, and I'm also trying to do the show and that kind of stuff. But at the Patreon is a great way to get your question in, and I can come on and answer it. So check that stuff out. Don't forget to check out everybody who is in the chat here that has some videos. I'm going to go click mine onto autoplay or whatever and check out some stuff, see what some people out there are making. I think I might have some time to do that. Oh, never mind. I got to go pick up Vicky from the train station. So maybe I'll just throw them on autoplay in the background while I'm driving around to get the lady. As Aquaticy says, I thought it was Went TI, which is probably right. That is probably accurate. I always say Wendetti in my head, and yeah, I've been wrong before. I trip over my tongue. Sometimes I say words wrong. I'm only half human, half bear, half pig. But everybody stay safe out there tonight. Don't get weird. Oh, and Dwayne, if you're looking for black carpenter pencils, they have them at Lowe's. You cannot get them at the Home Depot. The Home Depot only sells bright orange ones, but Lowe's sells the black ones if you're looking for them. A little hot tip out there if anybody's looking for a regular old carpenter pencil that's not brightly colored. Have a great night, everybody. Later. Has anybody seen the button? Where's the button at?